Welcome to the most forward-thinking, inspirational podcast in this reality. The show designed to challenge everything we've been taught. If you've ever felt there had to be more to life, more to existence, then you're listening to the right podcast. Time to open your mind and dive in. This is the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast.
And here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. Today is Canada Day, July 1st. All day! And tomorrow is my birthday. Can it be believed that I've been here having this experience for 44 years? Now, the most wonderful thing in the world is perception. 44 was old when you were 16. 44 is young when you're 88. And here's a crazy thing, too. If you think about your perception, if you think about who you are at 44 years old, who I am, can you think about who I am at 44 years old? The first 10 years of my life, I tried not to die. The first 5 years of my life, my parents made sure I didn't die. And then after that, it was up to me to make sure I didn't die. And that was the first 10 years of my life. The next 5 years was 10 to 15, where you kind of find out that girls exist. Ha ha ha. That's fantastic. The next 5 years is you getting your license, graduating high school, and attempting to become an adult by 20. But if you're in your 40s now and you look at like 20-year-olds now, they're like, fuck, you guys still smell like pee. No offense to any 20-year-olds listening to this show. I'm sure you guys, have character. And I'm blanketing when I make that statement. But it is a blanket. And there's the statement. 20 years of your life, you've amassed one thing, a driver's license, and hopefully some form of indoctrination that you're quasi trying to break free from. I've heard a quote. I don't remember who it was off the top of my head. I don't do many research or much research for my episodes, other than my entire life. That's why it's always kind of difficult to do an episode. Sort of when you sit there, you're like, what am I going to talk about? I don't have anything researched. I haven't looked anything up. What's happened in the past little while since I've last spoken? I don't know. Let's get back to what I was talking about. You're 20 years old. And then what happens when you're 20? You're like, oh, well, drinking's fun. Well, at least it did for us. But we were brainwashed to drink. The Gen Xers and the Xennials, as they call me, 79, 80, and 81. We're Xennials. It means we're not quite Gen X and we're not quite Millennials. Well, I guess that's kind of cool. I'm all right being a Xennial. It means we know the new tech is coming and we enjoy understanding it. The Gen Xers don't quite get it, and the Millennials take it for granted. So I think that the 3 years, 79, 80, and 81, I think all three of us, I think we're the greatest ever. And that's a dig at everybody who isn't us. What's that saying? They hate us because they ain't us? That's right. Ain't us? I didn't say anus. Now I said anus. 20 years of your life you spend dilly-dallying. And the next 10 years of your life, 10 to 30, you explore, expand, try things, fail. Now you're 30 and you think you're too old. You think it's over. Life hasn't even begun. Because from 30 to 40, you implement some stuff. Some stuff sticks. You start building something towards something or comprehending something. I don't fully comprehend it now, but I didn't start properly comprehending the fifth dimension until 37. The saying goes, life doesn't begin till 40. Everything up until 40 is a trial run. So now I'm 4 years into my real life. And if I make it to 88, that's double my life at this point in time. I've had 3 mystics now tell me that I'm going to make it to specifically 93, which is a weird thing to have 3 people tell you that. And then one of them, a fourth, told me that I was going to live beyond that. And he was a palm reader looking at my hands. Maybe he wanted a tip. I don't know. But beyond 93, that's pretty good. I'm going to have quite the experience. There's so much coming that I can't even fathom because all I'm doing right now is fundamentally comprehending what I know about myself. based on the experiences I've had after my fuck ups. And what I mean by that is you fuck up huge as a kid, as a teenager, as a 20-something, into your 30s. When you're living in a third dimensional scarcity mindset and it's self-preservant and all this sort of stuff, and you're trying to like build and all this kind of shit, you realize that you make a lot of mistakes. It's those mistakes, however, that teach you to grow. This is one of the most wonderful things in the world, because I was talking about this shit with a client of mine. We were talking consciousness, which is something that I've talked about time and time again on this very show. Consciousness is your perception. Actually, consciousness isn't. Consciousness exists. And because it exists, we have the ability to perceive. I used to believe that consciousness was mine, uniquely mine. And this is what they talk about with the fourth dimension. How do you go from third dimensional thinking to fourth dimensional thinking without stepping through the transitional period, the bridge period? It's like when you're learning a new language. English to French, la bibliothèque, right? As a French person who just speaks French, bibliothèque means bibliothèque. But as an English person speaking French, bibliothèque means library. That's the fourth, right? But it doesn't. It just means bibliothèque. It's what it is. It's the sounds that I make with my voice that create that thing. I'm describing that building filled with books. All the sounds that I make with my voice it's gibberish. Everything's made up. It's all just poppycock. And this is what consciousness really breaks down to. The fourth dimension is taking what you've learned from the third and transitioning it into the fifth. The fifth dimension is higher consciousness. It's a better plane. It's more observational. It's more I want to say focus driven. It's more inclusive, and not in the dumb way that everybody must be inclusive, except for those who, except for the people who are preaching inclusivity. We can cast aside anybody we want because fuck you. Yeah, because that makes sense, right? Third dimensional is division, conflict, fighting, competition. Fifth dimension is abundance, clarity, collaboration. That's the biggest shift, competition to collaboration. There are people out there doing exactly what you want to do. Go find out who they are and figure out how you can work with them. There is abundance everywhere. I'm doing that thing with my arm where I just wave it across the sky. Everywhere. There is abundance absolutely everywhere. And you can grab it. The funny thing too is we're born into abundance. And what do we do with it? We create scarcity. So this game that we're playing, this reality hunting game, this earth realm in which we find ourselves, where anything can happen, anything can go. I used to believe that I have consciousness, and of my consciousness, I understand my existence. I understand that I exist because of my consciousness. But I never understood, or I couldn't at that moment in time say that you exist. Because my consciousness is mine and mine alone. This was my thought process. And as I've expanded my mind, I understand that it isn't my consciousness, because that's individuality, that's singularity, that's division. Once again, I'm seeping in the fourth when I say my consciousness. It is the consciousness. And if the consciousness exists, then we are all part of it. Do you like my inflection there? I'm going all over the place. You know, it would be okay if I did do an entire episode with this voice. I think it would get a little tedious, but I'd give it a shot. 2 points to anyone who knows that voice. Consciousness is abundant. Consciousness is everywhere. Consciousness is everybody. Because consciousness is existing, the one thing that we can say absolutely exists, everything else exists because of it. Therefore, I exist and you exist, and we exist differently towards each other. Your experiences are your experiences, as consciousness wants you to have them. Your experiences with me exist to amplify our story. In other words, I glean something from my interaction with you. And it's imperative on my journey that I do so, which is why we meet people, humans out there that we just sort of connect with, we click with, and we want to do things with. And then there are other humans that are just out cutting people off in traffic like jackals. You got to have the good to have the bad. The infamous words of Beavis and Butthead. You got to have stuff that sucks to have stuff that's cool. And that's my best impression of them. That's what they said. That was an episode that I saw like in the 90s. And I'm like, fuck, that shit sticks with me, right? That's contrast. That's life. You need to have contrast. You need to define who you are by figuring out who you're not. So this whole thing, this whole consciousness thing, this goes down to the story that we tell ourselves, right? This journey that we're having, this plane that we're in, this reality that we experience, it fascinates me because how to put this into words? When you tell yourself the story, and this is one of the things that pisses people off too when I say, oh, you're just telling yourself a story. Because I remember it pissed me off. It pissed me off when I was trying to tell somebody, this is what's going on in my life. And they're like, oh, that's just a story you're telling yourself. Fuck you. It's my life. No, it's just a story. And when you tell yourself a story, no matter how bad it is, that you then become a victim of your own story. But if you understand that these things happen, but they don't define you, then you can change them. And when I say these things happen, I mean, that's, again, now, if we really want to cut it down, that is the story that we're telling ourselves to help us create the character that we feel we need to be at this very moment in time, which is kind of wild. And then people will say, well, I know I went to the gym yesterday. Actually, you don't. Because as you sit here in this very moment, this is the only moment that we've had. You know that in the decisions that you've made in your life or the paths that you want to be on in your life are indicative of what you're going to do in the future. They are part of what you've done in the past. And this is where it gets tricky. It is your story. I'm going to get into shape. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to get healthier. I'm going to do all these things. And in the process, you become the individual who has. But as it happens right now, you're simply having an experience. And inside that experience, you tell yourself a series of things or stories or whatever it is that motivates you to go to the gym. Like you're going to the gym today because you told yourself you went to the gym last week and you remember going. But we don't know what projections are and we don't really know what memories are. Right? But in the grand linear scheme of things, we have a life. Things happen in the past. Things are going to happen in the future. And I'm living right now. And it's very physical and it's very rudimentary and it's very third dimensional. Breaking out of the third dimensional thought processes on what your life is and what your experience is fundamentally changes how you function as a whole, because all of the shit that we do in the third dimension mindset, the mentality, all of the shit that we do is based on how we feel, is based on the story we tell ourselves. And that story changes. How we choose to inflect upon what we've seen changes. Our perception changes. New information changes certain things. So if you're going to be miserable, and if you're going to have a miserable outlook on things, one of the greatest stories, or one of the greatest analogies I've heard is a mirror will only smile once you've smiled at it. A mirror can only smile back at you. It can't initiate the smile. Your life can't initiate greatness, right? To even break it down simply, you can't win the lottery if you don't play. So sitting there like a pile of shit and feeling bad for yourself and being negative towards things will create a negative life because you're already manifesting negative experiences. To which one will say, well, these things happened to me in the past, and because they happened to me in the past, now I feel bad about myself moving forward into the future. I feel like that was like a Bill Murray from like not Stripes, Caddyshack. Yeah. It's Canada Day, folks. Politics. That's something that I might tap onto here in a second. Politics. The illusion of politics. I love that analogy too. People are like, you guys remember back in the day when wrestling was obviously fake and they were still playing the kayfabe thing up? That's where we are with politics right now. And it's 100% true. Oh my God. Oh my God. Did any of you guys watch that debate? Fuck me. Trump's an idiot. Biden's an idiot. The powers that be are demonstrating to us how fucking stupid the idea of politics really truly is. Here are the two fucking pigeon heads you're allowed to vote for. the illusion of opportunity, choice. That's absolutely fantastic over here. I can go on and on for hours about this. But this is one of those things where the left and the right bird, both left and the right wing, both belong to the same bird. There are no independents. And anyone who possibly has a leg up or actually truly legitimately isn't independent and tries to do something about it will get squashed because they don't get to play in that realm. Because there's a game going on above our heads that none of us really understand or comprehend. But the idea that we have to vote, the idea that we have to pay taxes, the idea that if we don't pay taxes, we don't have any roads. In Canada, we're getting taxed 40, 50, 51% sometimes. This is absurd. This is absolutely absurd. But finance is a joke too, right? You want to, instead of paying your taxes this year, Canadians, send a note back to the CRA saying, I need a detailed list of what you're doing with each and every one of my tax dollars before I trust you with any of my tax money. Now that I've said that, I must press this button right here.
Disclaimer. If you're going to soundbite any of this podcast, you must soundbite it in its entirety for consistency and context.
Absolutely fantastic. And it's true. This whole political scam is designed to distract you, right? Now, we can get into this whole thing. We were just talking about illusion, and I want to keep talking about illusions, and I want to keep talking about consciousness, and I want to keep talking to you guys about everything because, hey, it's almost my birthday. I'm almost 44. I'm having the time of my life. Life is truly magical, and I came from fucking hell. And that's what's a really cool thing. Every single light worker I've ever had the opportunity and luxury of connecting with, we all have such a similar story. We literally walked through the gates of hell to create who we are today and to see what we are and to just be broken right down. I had to die twice in one day for me to truly see this egoic death and physical death. And it's cool. There's that meme that says, just remember, where you are today is where you wanted to be 5 years ago, or something like that, something along those lines. And it's true. As I woke up this morning, that was one of the memes I saw. And I thought to myself, I really fucking am. I walked away from pain, hell, sorrow, insanity, a job I hated, people I no longer wanted to associate with. I walked away from a life I built for myself. And against all odds, created a different one, created one that was more abundant. And I don't want to say abundant because it's not. I'm 7 or 8 years into this gung-ho lifestyle that I'm doing. Like I've done everything. I've taken everything on my back. I've done the best I possibly can to create a vision, an image, a consciousness around me. And business has been slow. COVID changed a bunch of things. COVID created a bunch of things. What's happening to now is the second wave of COVID is hitting a lot of people, which is COVID came and shut things down, and people back then started using their savings or started doing this or started using their credit cards, and money was a little bit more scarce. And now we're looking at wave 2 of COVID, which isn't the disease, but it's the financial ripple effect that's coming. And there's going to be wave 3, which is probably, I want to say, and this isn't a doom or gloom thing, it's total collapse of the financial system, which is great, ladies and gentlemen, because it means total collapse of all your debt too. And then we have to rebuild and figure it out. But they're not going to allow that. There's going to be control measures in process and all that sort of stuff. So the people that are locked into a third dimensional mindset are going to be totally wrapped up in this finance. They're going to be stressing about money, when money isn't going to be the thing that rules the world. What rules the world next is going to be energy, is going to be intention, is going to be how you carry yourself, is going to be integrity. And then people they can't fathom it right now, so they want to yell at me when I say things like that. Fuck you. We all need money. And I'm sure we do. I'm sure we're all going to need something, right? And I'm sure something is going to come along that's going to help it be replaced. But we're not those people. We're not that thing. We're not supposed to be stressing about that shit. We're supposed to be in the moment. We're supposed to be having an experience, right? A lot of us we all get taken apart because what Alan Watts clearly said the best, we take so seriously that which the gods made for fun. And when you start seeing that you are the gods, that you are a piece of and you are integral into the gods, and you are just as much a part of the entirety of the universe as anything else, that you are not Without you, that the whole thing collapses. That's huge. Without you perceiving it, is anything really truly there? This is yours. This entirety of everything is your experience. So is the financial collapse good or bad? I personally don't believe in good or bad. I don't believe in that stuff, per se. And I don't like it. I don't like the way it goes. I don't like the way it feels. So, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. We talked about it last episode too, good and bad, right and wrong, conspiracy versus non-conspiracy. But, pretty much covered it all there. But this whole idea of energy, of consistency, of drive, of determination, it's beautiful. We live in a world where you can have anything. The political thing going on right now is just to show us how absurd it's always been. Now, there's a statement that says maybe it wasn't absurd. Maybe there was a shift or a change in the story. And you've seen these things 1,000 times over, where they change the narrative in front of us, right in front of us. You remember for years back in the 90s how the ozone layer, no, this was the 80s. There was a hole in the ozone layer and we were all going to die because we were using hairspray. Remember that? And then the San Andreas fault line was going to knock Los Angeles into the water. I think what's happening is they have this idea, or those who create the news have this idea that they're going to do something, and then they just sort of change narrative or shift stories or do something else entirely. Because we were doomed with the coming ice age, right? That was happening for a long time. I think the 70s was talking about how we're all fucked, like the coming ice age was going to kill us. And now it's global warming. And you see the TV, they're like, oh, we've changed all the news stations to show that it's red. Your weather's red. It's hot. So hot. Global warming. And then you've got people like, you're going to denounce global warming? How dare you? The sea levels are rising. Okay. All right. Calm down, Susan. We get locked into these ideas and we get locked into these stories. And we create more limitation. More limitation. And then what do? We fight each other. Why? Because of something we've seen. Because of some piece of social media that we saw. Because of the news. Because of the internets. And what do? We fight each other. As opposed to collaborate. When you get the opportunity to sit down and say to somebody, how did you get there? Why do you think the way you think? How do you understand things the way you understand things? Yet I understand things differently. I don't want to fight you because what you're telling me, you 100% believe. It's not like you woke up this morning and decided that I'm just going to go out there and fucking be a prick and just argue with anybody that I see, because that's what I want to do today. I want to argue. It's foolish. Understanding comprehension. This is a big one. This is a big one for me. Consciousness. Huge. Understanding the consciousness, the fact of consciousness, that we are pieces of it. That's huge too. Understanding that this world isn't an individualistic fight for what you've got type of place. It's more of a work through. It's a workaround. It's a work together. It's a beautiful place. Politics are a joke. Wrestling is hilarious. You can't smoke cigarettes anymore because they're absolutely terrible, but everybody openly accepts weed. You see, we're doing this whole flippy floppy thing. I even read an article too that whoever bought up MTV destroyed 20 years worth of news articles. So anyone that's trying to sort of do any kind of research on who we were as a people, historians from the future, there's going to be a massive chunk of just bullshit where these 20 years of music are gone. And the funny thing is about these 20 years of music, there's so much fucking truth in these 20 years of music. There's so much lore that is explored and explained. And it will make sense in the future. It'll be like, well, how come these people didn't see it coming? It's literally in their music. The musicians were telling everybody what this is all about. But we didn't see it because we can only see the music for where we are in this world. How many songs do we think are about love and breakups when they're really about the beast that runs the show? How many times do we have to look back and see these people flat out warn us about certain things, right? And then again, is it good? Is it evil? No. It's not. It's your perception. It's what's going to help you create the you that you need to be to get to where you're going. For you to have the best version of this journey. Wake up in the morning. I don't care if you're $8 million in debt or if you've got $8 million surplus. Enjoy your day. Figure out what you need to do. Get rid of that boyfriend that's fucking dragging you down, that's constantly negative because they're negative themselves. Read the 4 agreements. Understand that nothing is personal. If somebody's attacking you personally, it's because they're weak cowards and pieces of shit. And fuck those people. You don't need them in your life. Ladies and gentlemen, I could go on for hours and hours and hours, but I will say this. It is Canada Day here in Canada. It's July 1st. Soon it will be July 4th, America Day. And unfortunately, I don't know any other patriotic celebration days, and I feel bad for that. I suppose I should, because we've got listeners all across the world. So whatever day you guys celebrate your quote-unquote independence, the illusion of celebration, give them cake and pies and sparklers and tiny flags. That's the way she goes. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Canada Day. And in Canada, we can't necessarily be too proud of ourselves as a society because the weirdos run society. We are humanity. And to every Canadian and everyone who loves people and every human out there, I say you're amazing. I say you're awesome. I say humanity is the most beautiful thing in the entire world, and society is giving us all a bad name. I love each and every one of you, ladies and gentlemen, and the infamous words of Red Green. Keep your stick on the ice.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. Stay connected with us directly through the mentalmasteryalliance.com. You can also join the discussion on Instagram at instagram.com/the Mental Mastery Alliance. Let the team know you're listening by using the hashtag TMMA or tagging us at the Mental Mastery Alliance. To have your voice heard on the show, leave a voicemail or send a text to 647-338-1265. Long distance charges may apply. If you love us, leave us a review. If you hate us, you spend your time in weird ways, but also leave a review. Every review on iTunes tickles the algorithm, helping us grow. Until next time, unity over division. This concludes the most surreal portion of your day.
You got it, Pontiac.